Introduction to Agricultural Science. Introduction to the module. This module will introduce you to the basic ideas of agriculture and agronomy. It will help you to understand the several necessary measures related to seeds and crop management. Topics to be covered. Agriculture. Agriculture as art, science and business of crop production. Agronomy. Seeds and crop management. Sowing date. Sowing depth. Planting pattern and sowing method. Crop emergence. Agriculture. Agriculture is derived from Latin words ager and cultura. Ager means land or field, and culture means cultivation. Therefore, the term agriculture implies the cultivation of land. In other words, the science and art of producing crops and livestock for economic purposes. It is also referred to as the science of producing crops and livestock from the earth's natural resources. The primary aim of agriculture is to cause the land to produce more abundantly and protect it from deterioration and misuse. It is synonymous with farming, the production of food, fodder and other industrial materials. Agriculture as art, science and business of crop production. Agriculture is defined as the art, the science and the business of producing crops and livestock for economic purposes. As an art, it embraces the knowledge of how to perform the farm's operations skillfully. As a science, it utilizes all modern technologies developed on scientific principles such as crop improvement, crop production, crop protection, economics etc., to maximize yield and profit. Agriculture as a business aims at maximum net return by managing land, labor, water and capital, employing the knowledge of various sciences for the production of food, feed, fiber and fuel. In recent years, agriculture is commercialized to run as a business through mechanization. Agronomy. The word agronomy has been derived from the two Greek words, agros and nomos. Agronomy means the art of managing the field. Technically, it means the science and economics of crop production by management of farmland. Definition: agronomy is the art and underlying science producing and improving field crops with the efficient use of soil fertility, water, labor and other factors related to crop production. Agronomy is the field of study and practice of ways and means of production of food, feed and fiber crops. Agronomy is defined as a branch of agricultural science that deals with field crop production and management of the soil for higher productivity. Seeds and crop management. Sowing date. The choice of sowing date has to ensure that the crop cycle matches the most suitable period for growth and yield. A first limitation on the growth of a crop is its ability to survive when exposed to low temperatures. In mid-latitudes, this limitation allows classifying crops into two categories. A. Autumn-sown crops. The species is able to withstand frost and grow at low temperatures. Winter cereals like wheat or rye, rapeseed, flax, fava beans, beets, etc. They have a low base temperature. B. Spring planting. The species with a high base temperature, corn, cotton, soybeans. They are damaged even by low temperatures above freezing. Sowing depth. Sowing depth depends on the conditions of temperature and water content of the soil. In general, soil water content increases with depth while temperature and oxygen availability decrease. The greater the sowing depth, the greater expansion of the hypocotyl required to reach the soil surface. If the depth is excessive, reserves would be exhausted before emergence. Therefore, larger seeds allow deeper sowings. Giant seeds, fava beans, allow depths up to about 15 centimeters, while the medium-sized seeds, winter cereals, sunflower, cotton, should not exceed around 10 centimeters sowing depth, and tiny seeds, onion, carrot, allow less than 3 centimeters. It is difficult to ensure adequate soil water content in the surface layer in the latter case, requiring irrigation for successful emergence. Planting pattern and sowing method. Crop plants are usually sown in rows at the spacing between 0.15 and 0.20 meters, cereals, rapeseed, and 1 meter, for example cotton. Wide separations between rows were, in many cases, required for mechanical control of weeds. The appearance and use of herbicides have allowed reducing the interrow-spacing, contributing to increasing the radiation interception. In many species, yield is relatively independent of the distance between plants, for example winter cereals. In some, garlic, beets, excessive crowding can reduce the outcome or quality of the harvested product. The sowing method to use depends on the type of crop, soil conditions and available machinery. The methods used are: A. Broadcasting. The seeds are randomly distributed in the field. The application can be made by hand, using centrifugal fertilizer broadcasters or an aeroplane, as in rice. Usually, a broadcasting sowing requires further operations to bury the seeds and carries a high cost of seed, poor distribution uniformity and irregularity in the sowing depth. B. Sowing in furrows. It is done by opening furrows in the soil and depositing the seeds inside, usually performed with a seed drill. This drill has the necessary equipment to open the furrow, shoe type, hoe type or disc, deposit the seeds and close the furrows, plank, discs. In some cases, to allow post-emergence tillage and achieve optimum planting density, crop rows are distributed non-uniformly, as in the paired lines. The lines are grouped in close pairs, separated from the next pair by enough distance to allow interrow tillage operations. Precision seed drills provide a better distribution of seeds which saves seed, and in some cases, avoids the need for plant thinning, for example sugar beet. Crop emergence. After sowing the seeds, the seedlings will emerge from the soil in a while. The duration of this period and the success, for example the fraction of seeds leading to emerged seedlings, depending on several factors. Seed viability. A viable seed is one able to germinate under suitable conditions. Viability decreases with time from the harvest of the seeds and occurs in parallel to the loss of reserve substances, for example lipid oxidation in sunflower seeds. Some mechanisms delay seed germination in some species, such as the presence of germination inhibitors or waterproof coats. For these cases, germination may be improved by scarification, mechanical abrasion or chemical treatment with acids to enhance the permeability of seed coats, or stratification, placing the seeds between layers of cold, 1 to 5 Celsius, moist soil. Soil water content. Germination is a process that begins with water uptake by the dry seed, imbibition. If the soil is dry or the contact seed soil is loose, the transport of water from the soil to the seed is prevented, and germination does not proceed. After germination, the radicle expands and contributes to guarantee the supply of water to the seedling. The increase in depth of the radicle occurs in advance to hypercotyl growth so that, at the time of emergence, root depth exceeds typically 10 centimeters. Temperature. Along with depth, the temperature will determine the duration of the sowing emergence period. If this period is too long, the likelihood of attacks by pathogens or soil insects increases. Soil structure. The presence of a surface crust or excessive soil compaction above the seed makes emergence difficult as they prevent the expansion of the hypercotyl, especially if the soil is dry. A higher amount of seed or wetting the soil can mitigate the effects of the surface crust. Presence of pests or pathogens. During emergence and initial seedling growth, attacks by insects or soil fungi can often lead to crop establishment failure. Fungicides, seed treatment, and/or insecticides, seed and/or soil treatments, are applied to avoid this problem. Oxygen concentration in the soil. The processes of germination and emergence use energy derived from the seed reserves through respiration, which is an aerobic process. This is why the fraction of emerged plants can be significantly reduced in waterlogged soils. Summary. In this module, you have learnt: agriculture is defined as the art, the science and the business of producing crops and livestock for economic purposes. Agronomy is defined as a branch of agricultural science which deals with principles and practices of field crop production and management of the soil for higher productivity. The choice of sowing date has to ensure that the crop cycle matches the most suitable period for growth and yield. The more appropriate sowing depth depends on the conditions of temperature and water content of the soil. Germination is a process that begins with water uptake by the dry seed, imbibition.